Hey YouTube, is this cool or what? No, really, it is cool. It has air conditioning. Yeah, I know, a zero turn with air conditioning is not new. They've been out about 4 or 5 years. But when you get to be 70 years old plus, I don't care how much you like to mow, the heat, the humidity, the grass, the pollen, and you get to the end of that row and you turn and the wind blows that stuff right back on you, and you know what I'm talking about. Kind of takes all the fun out of it. Well, that's where something like this starts to make sense, or at least it did for me. But I couldn't find one to look at. All the dealers that I went to didn't have them in stock. And speaking of dealers, I actually ended up getting this one from WCT Farm and Lawn in Strafford, Missouri. And they're not actually in Strafford, they're east of Strafford a few miles on Evergreen Road, which is the outer road just north of Interstate 44. And by the way, Ferris, Curtis, WCT, nobody's sponsoring this video. I bought this with my own money. So you might say, well, then why are you doing the video? Well, it's a good question. Since I couldn't find one of these to look at, I went online and I downloaded the installation instructions from Curtis. I wanted to see how in the world do you mount a cab on a zero turn and seal it up. So let me show you some of the things that I found out. Okay, the first thing I wanted to show you is how they actually mount this cab up here on the front, and they use the top of the shock towers. They just take this bolt out and this bracket goes on, and then they have one of these on each corner. Now you see these yellow marks? Well, Morgan at WCT did a really good job of putting this together. In fact, he marked every bolt as he torqued it so that he would not miss anything. So maybe we need to send him to Boeing and let him teach them how to put a door plug in and get all the bolts in. What do you think? All right, when we get to the back of the cab, they actually have a very strong steel bracket here. It's got about 4 or 5 bolts in it, and they fasten that bracket to the tractor using that bolt that holds the ROPS on. So that's not going to go anywhere. One thing I was worried about before I ordered this thing was, would this cab shake or rattle or move around? And it doesn't. It's very well made. Okay, one of the other things I was concerned about is how do you mount an air conditioner compressor on a zero turn? Well, you get up to the top of the engine and you can see there is a pulley and a stub shaft on top of the engine. Now don't get excited. The stub shaft is actually a Briggs & Stratton part. It's not made by Curtis. And if you go to their breakout manuals, their part breakout manuals, you'll see that offered as a part. And that's not uncommon. They use both sides of these engines depending on what this motor is used for. But it sits on there fairly nice. Now one thing they kind of messed up on, they don't give you a way to turn your gas tank valve selector. Let me show you. You can kind of see how I fixed that. I made an adapter that fits on top of it, and I'll show you the inside of the cab here in just a sec. So I made me a little rod, made a little trim plate, and I can very easily change my gas tanks now from the seat. All right, the first day I mowed with it, it was about 92 degrees, and it did a pretty good job. It was less than 80 in the cab. It's putting out 50-degree air, and but I was mowing with the sun directly overhead, so I didn't have a lot of solar load that day. All right, I needed to seal up some of the dust that was coming on the right side. So right there where the height adjustment is, you take a little magnetic sign and you punch a hole at whatever height you want and cover up the rest of the holes. And you can make yourself as many of those as you need, but that stops all that dust from coming up through those holes. And then there were some other things on that right side that needed sealing up. The left side was really, really good. Yeah, don't make fun of my carpet. But I also sealed underneath the floor and underneath the seat. And I'll show you what I did for insulation here in just a second. But I also put a master switch on the console to turn the air conditioning on and off, because I don't like to engage my blades at full throttle, and I don't like to disengage them at full throttle. I like to idle down. It's easier on the clutch that way. And that's real simple to do. There's just one wire there hooked to that switch, and you're good to go. Let me show you some of the things that I put underneath the seat and underneath the floor pan. Okay, I'm shooting through the back of the cab here so you can see under the seat. And there's 2 layers under the seat and under the floor pan. And those help quite a bit with sound. And the first product is a product called Noico. And it's a sound deadener mat. And you can get it in foot squares. And it looks like this. It's just a peel and stick material. And the firewall insulation is what they call it, the other. And it's about a 1/4 inch thick, and it has nice foam with reinforcement on it as well. So with just a little effort, that's not too hard to put on. Okay, so we got that under the floor, under the seat, and I also put an extra layer of Noico back here on the back as well. Of course, it looks just like the shiny stuff that was already on there. So, okay. All right, people sometimes use the wrong stuff to clean their polycarbonate. Now this is a hard coat poly. It's 100 times stronger than glass, but it will scratch. If you get something up against it hard enough, you can scratch it. One thing that helps is to use something like Plexus. Now this is used on multi-million-dollar jets and airplanes that have polycarbonate windshields, and motorcycles, Can-Am Spyders. It's a good cleaner and it's a good polish. Plexus. I got this off of Amazon. It's not cheap. It'll run you 20 bucks a can, but I've been using this can for probably 4 years and I've still got a second one. But it's great. It'll take the little specks of glue and stuff off the polycarbonate, because this stuff comes coated in that white peel-off vinyl, and it does leave a little bit of glue in a place or two. This will take it off. It does not hurt the windshield. Do not use anything that has ammonia in it. It will yellow the polycarbonate. So Plexus, it works really good. Not sponsored either. This is just a tip that I'm passing along. Okay, YouTube, that's all I have to share this morning. I'll have more later, because as a certified measurement and verification professional, those are my professional credentials through the Association of Energy Engineers, and I've been in the trades almost 50 years, actually a little over 50 years. So I've kind of been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt. And one of the things that I will probably do is a load test on this air conditioner to see how many BTU does it actually produce. And I know how to do that. I don't have all the test instruments right now. They are quite expensive, so I may or may not do it, but I'm planning on doing it, because I think the air conditioning does not do what Curtis says it's supposed to do. So we're going to find out. So if you want to know more about that, stay tuned, and we'll be back.